Hello. For my course project, I decided to choose option C, a time warp, and my method of delivery will be a podcast in the form of a video. First off, I decided to take a look at Yehuda Amachi. I wanted to focus on his plays, and while doing this, I wanted to focus on looking at his plays, analyzing them, and then interpreting them in a time warp into today's society and what they would look like when we go forward in the future and in today's society versus how they were written at the time. The first poem I decided to focus on was God Has Pity on Kindergarten Children. There are a couple reasons why I decided this one, because I felt that it focused on a lot in my time warp within today's society, and that when it was written, we could see how, going down line by line, it says, God has pity on kindergarten children. He has less pity on school children. And on grown-ups, he has no pity at all. He leaves them alone. So to me, when I analyze this, it seems like the older you get, the more responsibility you get, and that lines up with today's society in that the older you get, the more responsibilities you have, not only within your family and friends, but in your society and community, with things like getting your driver's license, getting to vote. The older you are, the more responsibility you get, so the less pity you have if you make a mistake. And I think that is something that's very important, not only in today's society, but going forward as well. So after this, I wanted to take a further look into what pity actually means and analyzing that inside of the poem. According to Google, pity is the feeling of sorrow or compassion caused by the suffering and misfortunes of others. Basically, it's essentially feelings for others. And so what I wanted to do then was go in line by line and see how this pity affects the certain people. Starting off with the kindergarten children, being at such a young age, kindergarten children don't know a whole lot and don't have a whole lot of responsibility. So therefore, when they make a mistake, the pity is more so in that they're forgiven for their mistake in the hopes that they'll learn from it going forward, which is why in line 2, when it says that he has less pity on school children, it implies to me that, everyone's going to make mistakes, but it's learning from your mistakes, learning to be more responsible as you grow up, not only from kindergarten to school, but as an adult. So growing up and understanding what is right and what is wrong, and the older you get, the more responsibility you have from this pity, and knowing that you're not going to have as much as you get older because of what you've learned thus far in your life. And then in the last lines of the poem, where it mentions, and sometimes they must crawl on all fours in the burning sand to reach the first aid station covered with blood. When I analyze this and look at this, to me it shows that, when a kindergarten children or school children is in trouble or is in need of help, it's right at their dispersal. They can always find help, whether it's in school, out of school. On the other hand, it's, to me, when I analyze it, it looks like when you're older, you have to go to more further extents to try and get the help because you should have already known that in the first place. So I'm using the time warp not only into the current time, but also when we look forward into the future and we place this play and analyze it going forward in the future, I think that there's only going to be more responsibility as kids get younger and younger. There's going to be more responsibility for them just because of the new technology and new things that are coming out that allow people to be held more responsible and needed to be more responsible because of technology, as well as other things that are coming out that allow people to advance their education and be more aware of the situations in order to make them more responsible. So therefore, I think that going forward in the future, kids younger and younger are going to have more responsibility and less pity, personally. One example of this is in the state of Minnesota where I live and currently am, is that when I was in kindergarten, it was only half day for kindergarten, and now they've mandated it to where it's full day kindergarten going forward. I don't know what's going to happen, but the reason why I think this is like I stated, that there's so much more availability of resources for kids at younger age. You see kids with cell phones at younger ages, just things that normally you didn't see back in the day. So now it's causing them to be more responsible at a younger age and needing them to have more supervision at a younger age, like in kindergarten, so they're there the whole day versus the half day. Finishing up on this first poem, like I had stated before, it seems that there's so much more accessibility to kindergartners, for example, in that I remember back in the day that I used to be reading in first or second grade, whereas they're expected to be reading in kindergarten, if not before that, because of the use of availability with technology and such advancements with iPads and iBooks and all these different use of technology to advance learning at younger ages. For the second poem, I've decided to take a look at the poem Jerusalem. And it goes like this. On a roof in the old city, laundry hanging in the late afternoon sunlight, the white sheet of a woman who is my enemy, the towel of a man who is my enemy, to wipe off the sweat of his brow. In the sky of the old city a kite, at the other end of the string a child. I can't see because of the wall. We have put up many flags, they have put up many flags, to make us think that they're happy, to make them think that we're happy. So when I take a look at this poem and I try to relate it to my personal self, I look at the lines talking about, looking at the wall and trying to see what they're doing. They're trying to see what we're doing. And the way that I interpret this into my life is playing a sport that I love is hockey. And we're always constantly watching film, looking at the other team warming up before games, wondering what they're thinking, what's going through their head, trying to understand maybe what their game plan is so that it can help ours out. It's kind of like an invisible wall there that we don't really know what they're doing, just like in the poem that they don't really know what they're doing. They can kind of see, like, we can see them taping their sticks, let's say. We can see them getting ready and warming up, but we don't know exactly what they're thinking and what they're doing, just like they're talking about in the poem. Moving on to the next part of the poem, I wanted to talk about the walls and talk about barriers like that. Looking forward into today's society, there's a lot of advances in society to break down these barriers, but also at the same time there are a few people or mentions about putting these walls back up. An example would be a few presidential candidates feel that there should be a wall between the Mexican border and the United States border. But also at the same time, you see advances in society in that Cuba's banned, Cuba's now allowed people to go and visit it. So we see that going forward in society and time warp like this, these walls are being taken down. People are being able to do more and more things like visiting Cuba, going and traveling internationally, people who are internationally traveling to the United States, all because of these advances in society. That we're breaking down these barriers that normally weren't there, which are allowing for people to do more things that they normally couldn't do prior. Moving forward to the last lines of the poem, talking about happiness, and them saying that they put up flags to make them think that they're happy, and they're putting up flags to make them think that they're happy. To me, this translates, and I analyze it in that, to me, in today's society, people want to seem happier than they really are, and that they buy materialistic things to seem happy even though they may not be. Nice cars, nice houses, to try and appear to other people that they're happy, and maybe they might not be, but obviously some people are. So it's more of getting back to that ultimate happiness and not trying to show to other people that you're happy by doing these things, like they talked about putting up flags in the poem or buying a super nice car in today's society. For my next poem, I decided to choose I Passed a House, and it goes like this. I passed a house where I once lived. A man and a woman are still together in the whispers. Many years have passed with the silent buzz of staircase bulbs, on, off, on. The keyholes are like small delicate wounds through which all the blood has oozed out, and inside people are pale as death. I want to stand once more as in my first love, leaning on the doorpost, embracing you all night, standing. Where we left at early dusk, the house started to crumble and collapse, and since then the town, and since then the whole world. I want once more to have this longing until dark red burn marks show on the skin. I want once more to be written in the book of life, to be written anew every day, until the writing hand hurts. So as I take a step back and look at this poem and try and analyze it as a whole, to me it seems like the man wants his old life back, in the sense that he misses what he once had. It sounds like he's a lover who's scorned. It quoted, I want to stand once more as in my first love, leaning on the doorpost, embracing you all night long, standing. When I read this, it seems like he obviously wants to be back in this house where he used to live with the person that he once loved. And so to me, this shows that he wants his old life back. He's tired of what his new life is, and he wants what he used to have, and he would like to do whatever it takes to get that back. As I try to relate this in a time warp into today's society, it seems that people are always making mistakes, especially in relationships, and wanting to undo what they did and to get back what they used to have, whether it's a girl, a guy, an animal, if they lost a loved dog, or whatever it may be, is that people are wanting to redo or relive moments that they had with this person who meant so much to them. And this shows in the poem where he had quoted, like I said earlier, I want to stand once more as in my first love. People are always wanting to go back and relive those experiences with the loved ones that they had before, maybe after a mistake that they had made or a death or something that has caused them to lose the loved one that they once had. Whether we're talking about the 1800s, the 2000s, or even the 3000s going forward into the way future, there's always going to be scorned lovers. There's always going to be people who want back what they used to have. For the last poem I'll be touching on, it's titled Tourists, and it goes like this. So condolence visits is what they're here for, sitting around at the Holocaust Memorial, putting on a serious face at the Wailing Wall, laughing behind heavy curtains in hotel rooms. They get themselves photographed with the important dead at Rachel's tomb and Herzl's tomb, and up on the hill on Ammunition Hill. They weep at the beautiful prowesses of our boys, lust after our tough girls, and hang up their underwear to dry quickly in cool blue bathrooms. As I take a step back and analyze this poem, it's hard not to overlook what they state in the first line is condolence visits. And what I look at when I hear this is people who are paying respect for maybe loved ones or people that they didn't even know in situations that they were put in, like they had stated in the Holocaust Memorial or the Wailing Wall in Jerusalem. It's very prevalent, as noted in this poem, Tourist, that people are paying respect for their loved ones that they have lost. And it's also, as we time warp it into today's society, there's a lot of memorials for things when incidents occur like this, like the 9/11 memorial, the attacks in Paris even more recently, or the school shootings that seem to be happening all the time. There's always people who are going to be paying their respects, but as they talked about in the poem, it seems like they're also, after they pay their respects, they get their photograph at the memorial, they go on and carry on with their lives. They can't let what happened affect their lives completely, but it's hoping that people will learn from their mistakes. They pay their respects to what happened, learn from the mistakes of maybe someone else, and go forward and make a smooth transition to make sure that something like this doesn't happen again. Another part that I thought was interesting in the poem was it talked about that they put on their serious faces when they're at the memorials, but that they're also laughing behind heavy curtains in the hotel rooms. And to me, that this symbolizes that when they're at the memorial, when they're at these places where they should be paying their respect, they're paying their respect, taking the photographs, having serious faces, but then also they're able to carry on and live their lives, laughing behind curtains in the hotel rooms, maybe being able to carry on their lives, not completely let this affect them, but like I'd stated earlier, having using this as a learning experience so that it doesn't happen again to maybe one of them or their loved ones, and hopefully, like I said, it won't happen again. Another thing that stuck out to me in this poem was the title itself and being a tourist. When we look back into the future, into the past, we think about what a tourist was. Someone that's carrying around a camera, wearing a fanny pack. They're all happy about where they're being. But now it almost seems like in today's society that a tourist has changed. You have to be careful where you're going and touring. You have to be careful what you're wearing in certain places, in the respect that maybe you're in a gang area if you're visiting the United States where Crips or Bloods are active and you're wearing a red shirt. Something as weird as that, or as if you're in the Middle East and you get taken hostage as an American because they think that you're a spy. The definition of a tourist has drastically changed over the years and will continue to change as we go forward looking into the future because of just the way that the world is today and these advances in not only technology, but people being more passionate about their land or their gang. And it's causing people to not want to tour certain places that are actually beautiful because of scary situations like these that we see all over the news and media. And it's with the help of the social media that all these kidnappings and shootings and anything is seen because it's broadcasted all over the internet. Wrapping up this poem, I wanted to just kind of touch over the main points that I wanted to analyze, and that being the pain, the respects, and condolences. Like I had stated before, that people change, and there's things that happen in people's lives that hopefully cause them to change. And maybe a tourist experience is one of those that cause you to change. Going and visiting a place makes you maybe want to change what you do with your life or where you want to live. Along with that, it can change you in that if something happens where you go and visit, if you go and visit a foreign country and something bad happens, it can cause you to change your life and maybe tell people, to cause them to want to go there. So basically, what it is learning from your mistakes, and like they had said, paying the respects for the people that they're due, but also not letting that completely affect your life and being able to go on and live a normal life with using these experiences as learning examples or situations where you use knowledge to better yourself going forward into the future. As I wrap up these three poems, I wanted to just kind of go over briefly all three of them and talk about some important points. In the first poem, being this feeling of pity and responsibility as you get older, in that the older you are, the more responsible you should be, the less pity that they're going to have for you. And then moving on to the second poem in Jerusalem, that we see with all these advances in society, we're breaking down the barriers for not only technology but countries in Cuba. And then lastly, moving on to the last poem about tourists, and that everything is changing. The world today is changing. Tomorrow won't be the same as today. And that the definition of a tourist with a camera and a fanny pack has changed from then to now. People are studying abroad. There's a lot of different barriers that are being crossed because of these advances in society. In closing, I thought that I wanted to take a look at all three poems and what they say about the author, in that to me it says that poetry speaks. His poems speak to me in that they say one thing, but they can mean another. It depends on how you mean them and analyze and interpret the poems, and that you can't just look at the words for words and touching the surface. You got to really dive deep into the poems and what they really mean to you, and try and understand what he's trying to get you to think they mean.